All right, let me go to YouTube and make sure.
It says the stream is live. We're live.
We're live. Yay.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Stitch and Bitch. My name is Diana. I'm the host, and we are joined by, shortly by Leia. So we have our cat quota. But yeah, let's go around and introduce ourselves and what we read. So like I said, my name is Diana. I primarily read SFF, but I also read nonfiction and occasional romance. Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm the Fancy Hat Lady Reads, both here on YouTube and occasionally on TikTok. I read almost exclusively SFF, and I wear fancy hats. That was
awesome. Bree.
Sure. Sorry, there's probably noise in the background. I'm Bree. My channel is Bree Reads Books. I love science fiction and fantasy, and today I'm working on Granny Squares.
Nice. Rachel?
I'm Rachel. My channel name is Kalanati, and I mostly read fantasy, science fiction, and nonfiction. Though right now I'm on a little bit of a romance kick, so.
And Rhea.
Hi, I'm Rhea. My channel is The Bookfinch, and I read primarily. Nowadays, I read a lot of fantasy. I dabble in science fiction from time to time. I read a lot of fantasy webtoons, manga, comics, and various other bits, novels, etc.
And I know Bree already said what she's working on, but maybe in reverse order, what other folks are working on. So, Rhea?
So, when I was in Scotland, I bought this bookmark kit.
Oh, it's the Thistle kit.
Yes, it's the Thistle kit, and I just started making it because what better way to start a live stream than to hectically try to understand a completely new craft that I have not tried before, because I have not actually, I've done embroidery, but I have not done cross stitch, and
nice.
So I'm learning as I go, and I'm already thinking that I might have done something wrong to start this, but it's okay. I'll figure it out. To show how in the start I am. This is it. Like it's literally just started.
Rachel?
At the moment, I am trying to restuff the feet on this Triceratops that I crocheted like a year and a half ago. My actual project for today is I'll be knitting on a sweater because I finally started my Weekender crew. So there's not much to see yet. It's just it's a big circle. It's a big tube.
I went to the state fair this week, and somebody had that same Triceratops pattern on display. I've seen it a couple times, and I'm just like in love.
It's awesome. I love it. I've done it 3 times.
I have one. You gave me one.
Yeah.
You can't see it right now because it's on the top shelf.
I can see the feet. I can see the feet.
You can see the feet next to the bear skull.
Yep.
I had to do some dentistry on the bear skull, by the way. One of the teeth was coming loose, so I was putting in some wood glue today so that it's no longer having a janky tooth.
All right. Kelsey, what are you working on?
In theory, I could finish my bee today. There is so little left to be done on the bee, just the little flowers and the wings and beads that are supposed to go on the dots. But I don't know if I wanna.
Oh,
I feel like we're going to have so much to talk about today that I don't know if I'm going to have the extra focus to be doing a craft. Also, I'm not sure where I put the instructions for this, and I'd have to.
fair
I mean, to be fair, as we have stated in previous iterations of the live, it is perfectly fine to concentrate on the bitching from time to time.
What are you playing with?
I do want to show. I think I don't remember if I showed this before. When I bought the bee, I also bought, because I was feeling ambitious, a larger one too. So the next one after I finish the bee is the pumpkin, which is going to be perfect for fall.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, that's incredibly tiny.
Don't know what I'm going to do with either of these when I'm done with them, because I have no pumpkin.
You can make little baggies for your trinkets.
Maybe. Oh, it's at the come here, girl. This is there's a cat. Come here. Yeah. It's Sunshine.
Aww, it's a
Sun
baggie.
providing the monthly cat content. Hermes is sleeping on my bed in the bedroom, and he looked very content and not at all interested in joining me.
Yeah, my kitty cats have chosen chaos today.
Has Hermes forgiven you yet?
Well, sorta, kinda. Like he forgave me in about 2 hours after I brought him home, and he's been very clingy. But at the same time, like usually around in the evening time, he just goes to the bed and expects that if he stays there long enough, I will join him. So it's
Is he
about.
wrong?
Yeah, well, no, but this time he's gonna have to wait a little bit longer. He might come try to fetch me, because sometimes he does that as well. Like he goes to the bedroom, he goes to the bed, he stays there for a bit, then he realizes I'm not coming, and he comes meowing to the living room like, why aren't you here yet?
That's so cute. He's just trying to make sure you get good sleep, Rhea.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very needy boy. Today I was reading in bed in the morning, and he came to like snuggle next to me, and he does this thing where he kind of like stretches to his like full length, which is probably about 2 meters or something, like from like feet to feet, like he just stretches full stretch, and then his stomach is so round that he accidentally roly-polied himself off the bed.
Poor boy.
Oh.
All right. And I am currently working on a new project because I finished the scarf, except for weaving in the ends and blocking, because I hate doing that part so much. But I am working on a wrap that's mosaic knit.
Very cool.
So if you see me like looking intently at something, I'm just checking out my pattern.
I mean, same. I'm also like the pattern looks like this. Like, I will say that this is very good. Like, the kit came with instructions, like, and these are very good instructions. But at the same time, I'm gonna have to double check every once in a while what the hell I'm doing. And now I'm kind of sorry that I did not buy the Highland Coup bookmark kit, because this looks like it can be fun.
I haven't decided which one I'm going to keep and which one I'm going to give away, because I got both.
Oh, I'm keeping everything. I'm not giving away any.
Well,
anything.
one of them is going to be my trip gift from my mom. I just haven't decided which one. Maybe it'll probably depend on her reaction.
I gave stuff to my cat sitter, and they were very happy about all of the gifts. Also, I'm trying out the whiskey tea right now, and it's really good. It's really good. It does have a hint of whiskey.
Wait, did you say Highland Cow?
Highland Cow. There were Highland Cow bookmark kits for the same cross stitch
Okay, so
thing. And I think
Uh,
Rachel, you bought one.
Yeah, I
I'm
got
here for
this
this all the Scottish chat. Hope you enjoyed yourself. So, speaking of cows in Scotland, so I have not read this book yet, but folks in Muddiness's Discord have been reading Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, and apparently it's a whole mess of anti-Scottish xenophobia.
What?
But one of the things in the book where one, Scotland is apparently full of bears, which is not the case, and two, the land is too drab for cattle.
That
like
was
too
not
poor for cattle. And
Okay, wait,
that was not
What?
at all evidenced by us on our drives and train trips across the country.
Now
Cows
you
were very
wrote
much
saw a good deal more of Scotland than I
yes.
did. because-
Cows were very much in residence, and also so were sheep. And drab is also not the word I would use to describe the landscapes.
Not even a
What?
little bit.
What the actual?
who is this author and where are they from? Have they ever actually been to Scotland?
so it's Ava
Can they
Reid.
use Google image search?
So it's Ava Reid, and it's supposedly this feminist retelling of Macbeth. And from everything I've heard, it is extremely not.
I actually
I have like only seen negative reviews of that book, even from people who've loved all her other books. which is very
I
unfortunate.
recently, I think I might have linked it at some point, but I recently watched a video essay. I will try to search it again if I can. But that video essay basically went into all of these, usually YA, but like literary fiction and fantasy feminist retellings of ancient myth specifically.
I think I've
And,
seen that one. That was good.
Yeah, and it was actually debating that sometimes these, when these myths are retold to a modern audience, they actually give the female characters less agency than the original myths did, because because in an effort to inject modernity into the source material, they tend to kind of overlook the different cultural context of the women in those myths, and how they are actually transgressing a lot of the feminine roles in those ancient societies at the time. So like there is this risk that when these stories are retold in a modern way for a modern audience, you are accidentally stripping the women characters from the agency that they originally had. Case in point was made for Penelope in like an Odyssey retelling,
Mhm.
where like basically she was now a mouthpiece for Odysseus, kind of like a nagging wife in that retelling, whereas in the original myth, like the Homeric myth, she is actually a contrast to Odysseus. Penelope and Odysseus are the same character, essentially. They both use wit, and like they are foils to one another in that sense, and that is why they work as a kind of like a romance, because or like a couple dynamic, because they are in fact very similar. Both are kind of like use their wits to outsmart enemies and stuff.
They're tricksters.
Yes, tricksters, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to say that because like it's become a running joke in the Discord,
man.
like that Scotland is a land that is bareful and cowless.
We know the book that you should read about Scotland, though, and it is called Whiskey Business.
Yes. So, fun fact. If we're transitioning to talking about reading,
Let's talk about reading.
Okay, I can start. I saw this at an airport bookshop when we were on our way to Scotland with Maya, and I was just like, this looks so bad, but also like I'm intrigued, because if anyone has been in our group, I have talked at length about my endeavors to like partake in whiskey tastings and my joy of a good whiskey and stuff. And I saw this cover and I was just like, this seems like it can potentially be either very bad or like a very good romp. But I did not buy it at the airport bookshop. We then went to a bookshop in Edinburgh, and they had this on display as a local author. So this is a Scottish author like pick, and I was like, okay, this is now twice that I've seen this. I might as well. So I got it, and I started reading this, and this was actually really hecking good.
I'm looking it up right now.
I saw that at the Waterstones in Glasgow and didn't
Yeah.
pick it up, but I like picked it up physically and was like, oh, is this too trashy for me to like? Is this gonna be too
It's
bad?
actually
It's actually really good.
it's actually really good. It has it.
Who's
First
the
of all,
author?
so first of all, Whiskey Business by Elliot Fletcher. And it takes place in Isle of Skye, and I was reading it on part of our journey while we were on Isle of Skye, and also in Edinburgh, where the author is based. So first of all, it has a sort of low-key enemies to lovers, but like also like basically estranged childhood friends to lovers kind of thing. It actually taught me a little bit about whiskey distilling as well, which is good. Like it's very informative in some cases, and I really loved the dynamic between like both of the main characters. I think were written like really well, and and I'm really excited. Actually, at first I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure if I want to pick up the sequels. This is a trilogy, but now I'm actually kind of like curious about the sequel, which is gonna be published next year.
I'm not interested in what's his name?
Callum. I'm interested in Juniper.
Yeah.
Callum can like go choke, but like Juniper seems nice.
I
In any
hope
case-
that it takes a surprising turn.
Sorry, I was just admiring the cat.
With her
in
big
any-
chubby cheeks.
In
It
any
is
case,
so
like
admirable.
the thing that I personally really liked about this is that this has basically the main character is deconstructing a lot of his own sexist ideals, and he still kind of sometimes falls into kind of those old mindsets, and then he kind of calls himself out on it at times, and like sometimes other characters call him out on it as well. So I thought that was really interesting. So there's that kind of like very traditionally masculine guy deconstructing some of that like problematic nature in his own like beliefs that he has had.
Cool.
And there's also some like pretty good like anxiety rep. Like the main male lead suffers from anxiety, and yeah, all in all, like this was really surprising. I really enjoyed it. Like I went into this completely like not sure what this was gonna be, and I was just like, holy shit, this is actually like quite well written. It has a curated playlist on Spotify, and now a lot of those songs are on my liked songs playlist because it was actually a really good playlist.
I love a good playlist provided by an author for a book.
Yeah, this one had it. It's like really good. Like my favorite song was Belter by Jerry Cinnamon, which is sung by in a Scottish accent. So that was really good. So all like this was great.
I'll have to check it out.
I actually made also Rachel read it.
Made me read it.
Made you read it.
As in, you hogged the book the entire trip, and I bought the ebook so I could read it on the plane on the way home.
I will say that as the author states in an author's note at the beginning, where is it? Open door romance with multiple on-page sexual encounters. I will say that once it's a slow burn, but once you get to the steamy stuff never actually ends. So just keep that in mind when you start reading it.
I was expecting it to be a little bit more spicy than it actually was. I don't know,
It's
maybe
wholesome spice.
yeah.
I liked it. I really liked it. I also just love a male lead who loves women. Like, I didn't know that was such a big ask in a straight romance, but apparently it is.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of like romances where like the guy is a huge simp for the woman. I will get back to you.
Yeah, exactly. All the romances I read
take a hint, Danny Brown. Zaf, Heek, romance dude.
Okay. I will say that the Talia Hibbert's male leads tend to simp for the women. But,
Yes.
But this one, when you read it, you know. The simping comes into play later. But
the other one that I'm thinking of, it's by Kate Clyburn. It's her first series. It's like Luck of the Draw. It's like three friends buy a lotto ticket together and they win, and so they split it up, and so they each are like figuring out, you know, their hopes and dreams and stuff. And one of the first one is about this scientist who is working. So she doesn't have a PhD, but she's been working essentially as an FRA, so faculty research assistant. And there's a guy who's coming to recruit her to work at this private company, and he like is simping for her hard.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the simping, and I'm not as enthused for the second one, but I will say that the groundwork for multiple installments in the series was done quite well in this one. So I am tentatively going to read the sequel, Scotch on the Rocks, that is coming up.
Yeah, I will say another one that I read where the guy like simps hard is Mickey Chambers Shakes It Up. That one, so like I really enjoyed that one. It's by Cherish Reed, and it's a hot widower who's inspired by Oscar Isaac. And the female lead is Mickey Chambers, and she's working as an adjunct at a university, and to make ends meet, she starts working as a bartender there. So they do and he's also one of her students. So it's like there's power dynamic on both ends. So it's not just like, you know, he's her boss, it's also she's his professor.
Like the moment you said also her professor, my eyeballs started to sweat a little bit. Like, oh my
God. Definitely read Mickey Chambers Shakes It Up. I really enjoyed that one. All right, have you been reading anything else, Ray?
Okay, so I finished Delicious in Dungeon, Volume 14, the final installment in the whole series, and it was as great as I imagined. I can now finally get my Delicious in Dungeon inspired tattoo without fear of the series tanking immediately as I get some ink on my skin, which is what happened to Promised Neverland. I maintain that the moment I got a tattoo of that series was the moment the author was like, okay, I don't need to try anymore. Yank. But yeah, Delicious in Dungeon ended like beautifully. There were some things that could have been more fleshed out. Like I think that this could have gone on for one extra volume just to kind of flesh out what happens at the end and like kind of give all of the characters like the needed conclusions. But it was beautiful. I loved it. And yeah, I will fight anyone who says that Laios isn't completely and utterly autistic because
he's so
on the spectrum that like
I mean, he's not hiding his like hyperfixations at all.
Yeah, no. I like there's a scene in this if not spoiling anything, but if you've read the last two volumes, there's a scene in the second to last volume where Laios makes a decision and it's like really impactful. And then in this volume, basically the group basically like hears the tearful tale of like that decision and they're like, nah, like we know you, it ain't that deep. And I just laughed. But yeah, really great. And then I read Witch Hat Atelier, Volume 12. this was magnificent. 5 out of 5 volume. Like this is a really good example of like what it means to have like a volume that is 100% full of action. Like this whole volume is just a continuous action scene that just expands further on all of the tensions in the world, and every bit of action that is happening in this volume is a risk and is like feeding into the boiling tension between the witch world and the like non-witch world. And it was just like I was just like reading this and I'm like, oh, this is like this is the turning point for the series. Like this is where like we have reached the point of no return, and the status quo cannot go on after this volume. And it's like so exciting to see what's gonna happen next. I'm really excited. Like also a lot of the like minor characters start to get more screen time and start to get like more fleshing out. So I'm thinking that we're gonna see more of the characters that were introduced in the volumes 10 to 11, that they're gonna get bigger roles. And after this volume, it won't just be the main group of Kifri and Kifri's apprentices. It's gonna expand to the other witches and other witch apprentices specifically.
Cool.
So yeah. It's really exciting. And currently I'm reading The Missing Page by Cat Sebastian. I'm about 55% through.
I enjoyed that one.
I'm quite enjoying it. I think it's better than the first one so
Yeah,
far.
I agree.
So,
I thought
yeah.
it was very different from the first one.
I think
Yeah,
the first
that
one
is-
was more of
that
a
it is.
classic, like Agatha Christie-esque mystery. I think this one, Cat Sebastian was poking around more in like less of the mystery and more of like the social dynamic. I don't know. I liked The Missing Page a lot.
But yeah, that's what I have been reading. Emphasis on this was good.
Rachel, do you want to go next?
Sure. I ended up reading a whole bunch while on vacation, which is unusual. Usually I don't have time, but I guess I just really felt like reading on planes and in cars. So I read both of KJ Charles's new books, Death in the Spires, which is a straight up basically murder mystery. It's not romance, although there is a kind of queer romance thing happening in it. And then also The Duke at Hazard, which is in the same world, same series as The Gentle Art of Fortune Hunting, I think is the name of it. So queer historical male romance. I really enjoy Death in the Spires. Like I said, it's pretty straight up murder mystery. A group of people in their 30s who were previously, I think, at Cambridge together in school. One of their friend group was stabbed and killed, and they know it was one of their friend group, but they've never been able to prove who it is. And one of the group, the main character, who has suffered the most from the public fallout of the event, finally decides, like 10 years after, to go find out who did it. And everyone else is like, you should just stop asking inconvenient questions.
As one does.
Yeah. It would. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Though I think that the main character suffering the agonies went on a little bit more than I would typically like. I mean, it's genuine reason for his life falling apart, but it was like hitting you over the head with it at some points. And then The Duke at Hazard was just a good old romp. I don't think it was actually the best of Charles's male romances, but it was perfectly fine for reading in a car on the way to Skye. I also read, I have been so good. I came home, so I brought a whole bunch of books home from Scotland, and then I had my two latest pre-orders were on my kitchen table when I came home, and I've read both of them within a week of getting them.
Nice.
I don't know if I have done that in many, many years. So I read A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, and I really liked this one. I was
That's
kind of
what's in this package that I haven't opened yet. I was waiting
Yeah.
for it when I came home.
I guess this is the Goose Girl retelling, as people describe it as. I don't know what Goose Girl is. I began reading it thinking that it was going to be like solely from this perspective of this 14-year-old girl with the terrible sorceress mother. And then it also introduced Hester's point of view, and she's a 51-year-old woman. She's a spinster with a bad knee, and she's going to solve the problem in this book. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here for you and your terrible house party where people are gonna die, but you're gonna figure out how to defeat the sorceress. So
That reminds me a little bit of like wait, did I already fuck this up? Sorry.
I'm excited to read that one. I looked it up.
I can do an unboxing live on
you
camera.
should unbox it now. Yeah, I think the previous thing that I had read by Ursula Vernon Kingfisher was Thornhedge, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. It won the novella this year, and I was feeling kind of meh after Thornhedge. I didn't think it was the most memorable. I kind of forgot that it existed, and then I was reminded when it was on the short list. But this kind of reinvigorated me to read stuff by Ursula Vernon. This morning I started reading both Illuminations and Paladin's Faith, and I'm like super into finishing both of them. So yeah, I really like Sorceress Comes to Call. If you really love horses and you don't want anything bad to happen to horses, don't read T. Kingfisher books. That's just
Also, don't read a Goose Girl retelling of any sort if you don't want.
Yeah, the horse thing is part of the
key
original.
thing in the fairy tale.
So
There's
horse
two other
thing in
Goose
this.
Girl retellings I want to like read in conjunction with that. So I've already read one of them, which was Thorn by Intisar Kanani.
Okay, so that's the one I have read. I have two Goose Girl retellings.
And then the other one is Little Thieves by Margaret Owens.
See, I want to read Little Thieves, and I own but have, I am pretty sure, never read the Shannon Hale retelling, and I need to read
I
it.
have read the Shannon Hale one way back in the day. I don't recall there being a horse thing in it though.
I think
See?
that isn't that one a middle grade though. I think they would
Pretty
take that
young.
out.
It's pretty young, yeah.
Yeah, the horse thing is like part of the darkness of
See, my whole thing with horses and fantasy was already thoroughly shattered by Neverending Story when I was a child. So
I'm sorry, that
So-
was traumatic for me too.
so I'm after that I kind of like, if horses die in books, it has kind of just been just added to the trauma pile. It's just
Wow.
like,
I didn't realize that it was an element of the original darker myth, but it is a running theme in some of Ursula Vernon's books. Though I think the like bone horse army thing or whatever in the baking book was actually pretty epic and not like terrifying. But she actually addresses the horse thing in the acknowledgments, which I thought was funny because you know Vernon. She has a very hilarious story to explain everything. I also read The Friend Zone Experiment by Zen Cho, which is an interesting book. I pre-ordered it.
People talk about how it has been kind of mismarketed.
Exactly. Like I'll get into that. So I pre-ordered this because I just really love that past couple of things that I've read by Zen Cho. So she's kind of an auto buy for me now. And I was like, hey, Zen Cho wants to do a contemporary rom-com thing. I really enjoyed her previous contemporary fantasy, so I'll give it a shot. And this is not a rom-com, and it's not even about friend zoning. It's not about friend zoning. It's not about an experiment. You read the description on the back, And it's like, oh, this guy that she's interested in is like seeking revenge for us. I'm like, he's not even seeking revenge. What the hell? So do not believe like anything that this book says in the blurb or on the title. It's I hesitate to make this comparison because it could be a little bit misleading, but if you've read like Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, the first book in the series before everything kind of went crazy, this kind of addresses the dynamics of the incredibly wealthy business families in Singapore, Malaysia, that area of the world, and just how nuts it can be, the stress of the family dynamics, and then what people do with business, the corruption, all of that. And then tie it into really strict traditional gender roles for women in those families as well. So I saw somebody else's review of this book that said it would probably like a better title for this book would just be Family Business, and don't market it as a romance or a rom-com or a comedy or anything like that. Just straight up kind of like modern day thriller about a really nutty family, and it just happens to have a like second chance romance happening on the side because it's kind of part of the main character's journey and her like her mental health and stuff. So the super quick gist of this is that a young woman who's living in London, she's originally from Malaysia, she's running her own business and stuff. She's cut off contact with her family, who are extremely wealthy. They have a very big corporation in Malaysia. And out of the blue, her father calls her and says, so I can't really trust either of your two absolute screw-up brothers, so you're in the running for taking over the family business when I retire. And then he pits her against her brother, specifically her second oldest brother, I think. And it gets super, super nasty. And then she also runs into her former flame boyfriend from 10 years ago, who has his own family history with her family, basically. I'm not going to try to explain all that, but it's very twisty, and there's some stuff that happens in this that I would not expect to see on the page in a romance. It's like stuff that just is actually pretty deeply upsetting. There's an entire basically a revenge porn setup from the main character's brother.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Gross.
It's dealt with, but the threat of something like that in a book that's actually pretty lighthearted and really trying to push the romantic is they're going to be happily ever after thing. It's like that is not even the most disgusting thing that the character's family tries to do to her, and that like her parents are okay with happening. It's like, if any of you guys, like, you have siblings and one of your siblings was like, yeah, I'm going to plaster naked pictures of you across the internet and ruin your entire reputation because I just don't want to do business with you. Like, barf. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, but I very quickly had to stop thinking about it as just a romance, because if I did, it just seemed kind of weird, you know. But still very good. Not on par with oh my gosh, what was her previous book?
Was it the
Blackwater Sister?
Yeah.
Blackwater Sister is amazing. So I read that. I also read Whiskey Business, as you guys know. And I also really enjoyed it. I backed the Kickstarter for the Neon Hemlock novella series for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I read one that came out a couple months ago called Dragonfly Gambit by A.D. Sui. It's pretty short. I didn't really love this one. It is very, very dark. It's basically a woman who is.
Hello.
How do I say this without spoiling it? She's going to do whatever it takes to have revenge on basically the people that ruined her life and the fascist state that is fighting an intergalactic war. There's a lot of blood and guts and bile and disgusting stuff happening in the book, and it all ends really super tragically. It was a little bit too dark for me, but it was quite well written. I think if it had gone more into like analysis of the politics and not just the personal revenge, it would have been more interesting. Because even though it's like set in a fascist state and it's talking about, you know, colonialism and the destruction of other cultures and stuff, it's very much about one woman doing her absolute best to take out everybody else when she also goes out. So, And the last thing that I read yesterday was The Deep Dark by Molly Knox Ostertag. I did not know that she had a new graphic novel out. If anybody has read her previous ones, The Girl from the Sea, I think, and then The Witch Boy, The Midwinter Witch, they're really excellent. But I stumbled across The Deep Dark when we were in a bookstore where was Transworld? Was that Edinburgh?
Which bookstore?
Transworld.
Transrail. That was in
Transworld,
Edinburgh.
Sorry. Was that Edinburgh?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did not
really
go to
sad.
we did not go to any bookstores in Glasgow outside of me and Maya going to that Waterstones. We spent
Okay.
a lot in dealer's room though.
That's true.
I saw like all the special editions, and I'm like, I was so jealous.
I got
Everybody kept going back to the Illumicrate booth, and what was the other one that was doing special editions?
Broken Binding.
There's and also Inkstone.
And
Inkstone as well.
Yeah, people kept going back to those. Yes, thank you.
I'm still-
Transrail is in Edinburgh. Thank you, Rue.
This is the one I got from.
I have that one. It's so pretty.
They're really, really beautiful.
I got
the Illumicrate.
editions of Witch King, the Illumicrate edition of Witch King, and I got the Illumicrate edition of Some Desperate Glory. They got me with the deal because they were like, you know what? You can get one hardcover with £18, or you could get two hardcovers with 30.
I was so close
But you
to
didn't
doing
go back
that,
to
and then I was like, I don't know if I have room for a second hardcover in my luggage. So I only
You
got
didn't go back though for the Octavia Butler special editions.
We saw them. They look.
I
really
did not
pretty.
go back to the Octavia Butler editions, and I'm still salty that Thomas managed to nab the last
Oh
set.
yeah, he got them. He got them.
However,
Did you get the Locked Tomb set?
no, Maya got that one. I got the Broken Binding edition of Nettle and Bone.
Ooh.
Beautiful.
Very, very pretty.
It is very pretty. Look at it.
Oh, I love it. I love the Bone Dog.
But yes, that one I did because I was debating between like, should I get Nettle and Bone, or should I get the like Parable of the Sower? Because I was like, I can't justify getting all of these. Technically, I could have. I was under budget at the end. At the end, I had to go and exchange money back.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
so I could have.
We're getting close to an hour, and we've only gotten through two people for what they're reading. So, is there anything else?
Really quickly then.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there anything else you want to talk
Yeah.
about, Rachel,
The
before we
Deep
move on?
Dark by
to
Molly
Kelsey?
Knox Ostertag. It is a YA. I'm actually going to call it horror. It's kind of on there. It's kind of like just in that middle zone between fantasy and horror. And I really loved it. I was surprised. I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely like a coming of age and accepting yourself kind of story. It has really good trans rep in it as well, and yeah, it was lovely.
Nice. Kelsey, what have you been reading?
Okay, so before leaving for Scotland, I started reading Rake's Fall. And I did not pack it with me because this is so not a travel book, like so intensely not a travel book. There's no way I would have made any progress on this if I had tried to read it on an airplane. It wouldn't have happened. What I did read mostly while traveling, like my one travel book was on my Kindle, sort of chosen at random, something that had been there for a long time. It was Mind Touch, I think is the title, by MCA Hogarth, which is cozy science fiction. I was like, okay, cozy science fiction. This seems like my travel vibe. And it was fine. It was good enough. It's about these two alien characters in a graduate level psychology program, you know, going about their lives and taking class and meeting people and doing things. And this is part of where I don't know if, like, part of it is just that I don't have the sort of focus I need to really get emotionally involved in things that I'm reading while I travel. I just didn't feel like the writing was quite strong enough to suck me in and like sell me on that many pages. It's like a really long book. You know, that much of that sort of plot. Like, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was exactly what I signed up for. And I just thought, like, the writing could have been better and the whole experience would have been better. I don't know. And it's frustrating because, like, if I'd enjoyed it just a smidge more, I could see myself getting into that whole universe, because there are a whole bunch of like interconnected series that she's written in this universe. And like, yeah, I want to learn about all these different species and their planets and everything in this world. But I don't know if I get along well enough with the author's writing to commit to that. And so now I'm back to reading this, which is like the total opposite experience, where just this is so, I have no idea what's going on. So some portions of this have previously been published as short stories. Like the first 2 chapters are something that were published as a short story on their own. And then the next few chapters are like very disconnected from that, but you're sort of meant to understand that, like, the characters that you're meeting through each of these chapters, you know, during at the times of their deaths, are somehow the same 2 characters from the first chapter, who are like being jointly reincarnated in different universes as the same person. And it's deeply, deeply confusing. I am hoping it will make more sense once I get further into it, because once you get this far in, part 4 is like, and which I'm getting near the end of, is basically like a whole novella that like starts to reference sort of maybe what's going on in a bigger story arc, but is also just like one setting, one place, one set of characters, thank goodness, for a number of chapters. And now I have no idea what to expect from the rest of this book. That's what I'm trying to say. No idea where this is going.
I know somebody else who's in the middle of it right now, and their reaction has just been, WTF, what is happening? What even is this?
I will say the part that I'm reading right now, the part that I am describing as a novella in the middle of this book, is set in Luriet, which is the same city that Saint Right Mars is set in. but I think it's sometime later, and they're having like this bizarre zombie apocalypse situation where like the dead are just like getting up and going back living their lives. And everyone's just sort of pretending this is going to fix itself at some point and doing nothing about it.
I mean, that's Laureate.
So like it, with that part, it does help that I've read Saint of Bright Doors. I'm not sure I would recommend reading this book without it.
So it's a sequel, but not a sequel.
It's not, I mean, it is a multiverse thing, because like each part of this, like the understanding is that we're traveling through a bunch of different universes.
Okay.
So, only some of it is going to take place in that universe, and then presumably we're going to move on. Yeah, I'm confused. But not at a point in that where I can pass any sort of judgment yet. And then, like, what am I going to read next? I have no idea. I mean, I do have ideas, because obviously I need to read. I'm doing my pre-orders. This is my pre-orders are stacking up. I'm committing to reading my pre-orders when they arrive, but I still haven't finished this one, and this one is already here, and then Long Live Evil is coming next week. So that's what I have to read. But also I do, like Di said, also want to read other Goose Girl retellings in tandem with this one. So I don't know. That's where I am.
Bree?
Sure. So when I was on my trip, I wound up finishing Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which I'm way behind the times on, and had very middling feelings about. I had finished the 5th or 6th, I think maybe 6th of the Vampire Knitting Club books, which I adore, but I'll admit they're popcorn. They're not books you're going to for highbrow reading, but they're lovely. But now I'm super excited because I'm reading The Vampires of El Norte, which is Isabel, let's see what her last name is. Cañas, yeah. And I've been really, really enjoying that. I didn't read The Hacienda, which was her previous book, but this one has been really good. I'm super glad that I'm about halfway through, so I can't say what the ending is like, but so far, like, the character development, the story plotting has all been really good. Now I just need some, like, gory cowboy vaquero battles, and I will be, like, golden. So that's been actually, like, really, really enjoyable. And I have next on my list, let's see, is Ammonite by Nicola Griffith, which for some reason I've never read.
So good.
Yeah, no, everybody always says it's so good, and it's been on my list for like ever, but I'm gonna finally read it. Yeah, and then I also pre-ordered the new T. Kingfisher, but that should wait until my backlog is done a little bit more.
All right. So for me, I was double checking when our July Stitch and Bitch was, because I wanted to see if I had talked about this book. So I think I burned myself out a little bit, like trying to rush through Hugo reading, because this month has not been very good reading wise. But one book, so this is a July book that I read, not in my normal wheelhouse. I finished it. Have not, like, it's been a month and I am still like randomly thinking about this book. I bought my own copy. It is Penance by Eliza Clark. This book, oh my God. So I literally like laid on the floor and stared at the ceiling for like a good 10 minutes after finishing this book. So it's a book within a book. So it's this true crime book that's set in Northern England. It's about the murder of this teenage girl the night of Brexit. And it doesn't get a lot of play because of Brexit. And so an author who you find out he's like been dealing with some career disgrace because he got tied up with the phone hacking scandal, is trying to make his big comeback writing a book. Hermes!
Void.
writing a book about this crime, but right off the bat, there's a note from like the fake publisher saying, like, shortly after publication, there was allegations by the interviewees that the fake author was misrepresenting them and fabricating some of the interviews, and that he got some sources through unethical means. So, like, you're told right off the bat that this is not a reliable narrative. And so it's following like the three girls who did the murder plus one who was implicated. And like it gets into like the class dynamics of this town. It gets into the politics of what was happening, because one of the girls who was the murderer, her dad is like a big UKIP guy. So dealing with like those types of politics. And then also dealing with Tumblr and serial killer fandoms. And like there are parts of this book I'm like, oh no, I don't need the footnotes to understand what you're referring to. I was there. Like I might not have been a teenager on Tumblr, but I was on Tumblr during that time.
I was forged in the fires of Tumblr.
Yeah, and so like
by the time you saw the light, you were a man.
Yeah. It was like this, yeah, so the Brexit angle might be too rage inducing. So I'm obviously not English. I'm not in the UK. But one of the things I think it does is kind of talk about the class dynamics and, you know, the economy of the area and what was going on. So it's there. It's not like a major plot point. I think like it, I'm not doing a good job of talking about this book, but this book is really good. I really enjoyed it. I want to reread it. It's just for someone who like has a lot of issues with true crime, this book like addressed a lot of them. So like kind of the voyeuristic, exploitative elements, like the fact that a lot of it is focused on the perpetrators and not the victim. So the girl who was murdered, Joni, like so much of this book is kind of like the fake author building her into kind of being this terrible person who, you know, like maybe deserved to be murdered when it was actually just like teenage girls being little bitchy to each other. And like a lot of his sympathy is for girl A, whose dad is the UKIP guy. And like, there's I really enjoyed this book. I really recommend it. Yeah. You're the reason, you and Maya are our sources for all the penance brainworms in the Discord.
Di, have you watched Under the Bridge yet with Lily?
No, I haven't.
You should watch that after reading this then.
Okay. Yeah. So I read Penance. I loved Penance. Would recommend
When
it.
was that written? Like when was it published?
This came out last year.
It was just really interesting in terms of like, is the author also like British?
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of like with like all of these narratives that take kind of the UK society during, specifically after the Brexit referendum, you know, especially in light of recent events in the UK, that kind of like has been building up since like all the xenophobia and stuff has been building up since the since before and after the Brexit. I just find it interesting, like in like in what kind of social climate has the author been writing the story? So that is interesting to know.
Yeah. This one came out last year. And then the other books that I've read since then, like I said, July I read a lot. August I have not. I read The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons, her new book. And it's like, it's being pitched as a dragon heist book, and there is a heist, but it's not a huge focus of it. But I liked how she looked at the kind of the dynamics of what would society be like if there were dragons that had all this power. Like how would that affect, you know, how cities are built, how people react to dragons, like kind of the differences between people who live up in the mountains where the dragons are versus those who live on the ground where there aren't dragons. So I thought the world building that she did was really interesting. So I enjoyed that one. I read a nonfiction book called The Dinosaur Artist, which hits my let's talk about true crime when it's not murder itch. And this is about, like, the kickoff is this guy is selling this dinosaur skeleton at auction, but the dinosaur skeleton is originally from Mongolia, which does not allow for exports of dinosaur fossils. And so it gets into a lot of like the history of paleontology, the history of fossil hunting. The guy who's Greed kind of kickstarted this, and it was interesting. But the author did not keep it focused enough. So like she would go off on tangents. So kind of like talking about the political scene in Mongolia led to, let's talk about ALEC and the right-wing apparatus that's influencing government because the Mongolian president has ties to them. I'm like, okay, so personally, I do find this interesting, but this was not needed for an entire chapter. Like it was enjoyable, but it definitely needed tighter focus. And then the book that I just finished was Moonstorm by Yoon-Ha Lee, because I'm like, I need an audiobook. I need to like try and get myself back into reading. And I enjoyed it. Like it was a solid 3.5, 3.75. I would say it's sci-fantasy more than sci-fi. Like it takes place in space and there's, you know, spaceships and mechas, but there's also kind of like a fantastical underpinning to the world building. That's a little similar to what he was doing in his middle grade series.
Is this one the YA series?
Yeah, it's the one that just came out.
I want to read it, but at the same time, I just really want to read adult novels by Yoon-Ha Lee.
Yeah, I haven't read his adult novels. I've only read his middle grade and YA. So I think that's the next step. But I enjoyed it. If it ends up on the Lodestar next year, I won't be mad about it. Depending on what other YA books I read this year.
That was the one we were talking about that you said you were predicting was going to be on the Lodestar list.
Yeah, like Yoon-Ha Lee is an author that Hugo voters are familiar with.
Yes.
And his middle grade books have already been nominated for the Lodestar. So like, I would not be shocked if this book ended up on the Lodestar shortlist. And given that it is actually YA, I would be fine with it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we are at an hour. Do we want to skip media for come back to media if we have time and talk about Hugo's and Worldcon?
Yes,
let's do that.
Okay. Let's do that. So I sadly was not there. I have a big work project that's almost done, but I could not justify taking time to gallivant around Scotland around this time. So how was it? I know Kelsey and I have same feelings about this year's Lodestar, which we can get to.
I just want to say that I really enjoyed the Hugo Awards ceremony this year. They made the decision to cut out a lot of the stuff that's traditionally been part of the ceremony. Good stuff, but it makes it so long. They kept it very focused. They rotated in a lot of different presenters. They did that well. It made it interesting, but it was still focused on giving out the awards, you know? And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't exactly as speedy and to the point as the San Jose ceremony in 2018 with John Picasso, but it kind of had that intent to it as well.
I will say there are a couple of things that were cut that I wouldn't have minded seeing. Like I realized afterwards, because they didn't tell us anything about the design of the base, I didn't even really see what the base was this year.
That's true. I mean, I think they just sort of said who designed it, but they didn't have
it was in the
pamphlet. A glass corner thing, but if there was something etched on it, I didn't see it. I don't know what it was.
One day I hope that Hugo's will have enough either volunteer manpower or just budget that they can do the Blender 3D animation of each Hugo sculpture each year and do an animation between now for the next novel, similarly to how they do in the Oscars. But that's just for funs. for funs and giggles.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the ceremony overall.
Sunshine.
Categories.
Oh, I was going to take a moment to say I thought the programming at Glasgow was phenomenal this year.
Yes.
And it was a way improvement over like the last 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
I unfortunately missed a huge amount of the programming to be at the business meeting, and I still wasn't at the business meeting when any of the new business was gotten to.
Kelsey was our annual business meeting sacrifice.
We learned at the beginning of the second day of the business meeting that 2 people who'd been there at the first day, and this was not nearly as like well attended as I had kind of assumed it would be in the year after all the drama. Like I thought more people would show up. It was not a large crowd. 2 people from the first day had tested positive for COVID. And then halfway through the first day, Alex Axe, who was, I want to say the secretary.
They were the secretary, yeah.
They were the secretary. Also disappeared and went to quarantine because they tested positive for COVID at lunch. And so like day 1, we had just 3 cases of COVID that had been in the business meeting room. And so at that point I was like, I'm going to be here until we get to the thing with the fan cast, and then I am out. So I left after we voted down the fan cast thing on day 3, and I didn't go to day 4. So I know that like most people are going to be curious about what happened with the new proposed stuff, and I gather most of it just got like sent to the committees that we formed on day 1 that are meant to report back to Seattle.
Yeah, and for reference, we all care about FanCast maybe a little bit more than the average person, because in case you didn't know, Stitch and Bitch is eligible under FanCast.
Yeah.
Anybody here with an individual channel who posts is eligible under FanCast.
Can we acknowledge the long list this year, that we made the long list?
Yeah, we're last, but we made it. We're there.
14 nominations. You guys, we love all 14 of you so much.
And I think it's totally possible for us to make the short list given the low nominee.
Yeah, there actually isn't that much of a numbers gap between like bottom of the long list where we were and bottom of the short list. Look, I have this in the other tab because I thought we would.
Was it 28?
Yeah,
28 votes. That was the last qualifying fan cast for the shortlist.
Yeah, so we are halfway there.
But yeah, it was exciting to see. Like some of my favorite moments in Worldcon, like I went to the like the gynecology in space like a seminar, like that was hosted by like a Obgyn, like medical specialist.
Oh, the obstetrics one.
Obstetrics in sci-fi. That was good. Then there was the the neurodivergent like writing in SFF, which was really great. It was a bunch of like neurodivergent authors talking about their approach to writing and also reading, and how that may differ from a neurotypical experience. That was really interesting. Like overall, like a lot of the panels that I participated in, like I got pages on pages on notes. The like SSF book covers panel as well, like where artists were like discussing like what is currently marketable and on trend and why that is, and like the process of designing book covers in current markets, and especially like with, for example, with the encroachment of AI and stuff like this, like with generative AI and stuff, which I'm actually surprised that not more of them spoke up about the influence of generative AI on the design process. But that's it, like so many cool things in like Worldcon programming, like just the programming alone. I was like really happy like especially since like in recent years I have kind of been like, well, I'll sample a panel or two a day, and then I'll do touristy stuff. And now I was actually like, I actually want to be in the panel.
That was very ironic because when we were all making plans, we're like, yeah, we're gonna be there for like maybe a day of the con, then we're gonna go do other stuff, and then we got the programming, and we're like, oh no,
Yeah,
we want to see things every single day.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe having the form that everyone fills out and not just having it be old timers with secret handshakes with the programming chair works out for the best.
Yes.
In fact, I came up with a program idea that I'm gonna pass on to Seattle for next year, and let's see if that makes it.
I also was pleasantly surprised at how many people were crafting in panel, which is always popular, but I saw someone do their drop spindle in panel, and that was the most exciting thing.
There were a lot of textile related things on the program, and then like in the exhibits area and the quiet area and stuff. So there were a lot of people with their crafts. I was delighted to see it.
Yeah, I was actually kind of wondering, like, if maybe at some point we should have like a Stitch and Bitch, like a meet of some sort.
Oh yeah,
because that seemed like
in
fun.
Seattle.
Yeah,
I will say, okay, so Seattle, where the convention is, it's near a cat cafe. I think I've shared this. So it's Neko Cat Cafe, and they have both adoptable and resident cats. And I don't know if she'll still be around.
They have the best TikTok.
I don't know if she'll still be around next year, because sometimes resident cats get adopted out if they're kind of like, okay, I'm done. But they have a black cat whose name is Elvira. And every year for October, they do Elvira merch.
I think I've seen this.
See,
can I buy Elvira merch online?
Yeah.
See, I'm of two minds about this. You can't take me to a cat cafe in America, in the US, with adoptable cats, and then expect me to walk away like unchanged and my heart intact.
I think it sounds like a great idea, except I'm allergic to cats. So
you were with Hermes for 1 week. You like
one cat.
Well,
I've been in a house where 7 cats lived, and I was cat sitting and like house sitting for somebody, and I knew for a fact that I couldn't be in the house for more than 15 minutes. So I had to get everything done because 7 cats, one house.
Isn't like 1 cat for 7 days kind of like 7 cats for 5 minutes?
No, 7 cats in a house that hasn't had cat dander cleaned like ever. Like no, it's completely different.
They do talk a lot about their cleaning protocol in terms of like what they do, but yeah,
that would probably help a lot then.
But yeah, I definitely want to do that. And also the Seattle City Pass includes the aquarium, and the Seattle Aquarium is pretty dope.
I haven't been to the Seattle Aquarium since I was a kid. Okay.
I always try and go to aquariums when I visit someplace.
I do like aquariums.
They have sea otters.
Oh, otters! I can't. I took every opportunity where I saw either otter art or otter related things. Like for example, we went to the Dunvegan castle, and there was an otter sporan.
A what?
A sporan, you know, the little pouch that you wear with a kilt.
Oh.
So there was a portrait of a previous previous clan chief of the MacLeods where he was wearing the otter sporan, and then below the portrait the actual otter sporan that he was wearing in that, I think, 17th century portrait was in a glass case. I'm sorry for bringing up taxidermy in a wholesome context, but it's like it was great.
Cool.
Anyway.
That.
Luke does not want to be perceived today. He's just chilling on the couch.
Perceived. Sunshine is having her post-lunch feisty times. I turned off the volume when her food dispenser turned on at the top of the hour to give her food, and now she is having her post-lunch zoomies.
One thing I will say about Worldcon organizing in general is that I hope that Worldcon would approach the dealer's room in a similar fashion as a lot of anime and Comic-Con conventions do, where they separate basically the professional shops and publishers and stuff and independent artist alleys, kind of like so you have kind of like they may be in the same same area, but basically you have like the artist alley where you have all of the independent artists grouped together, and then you have kind of the like publishers / like figurine salespeople and like non-indie sellers like in one area, which makes it a lot easier to navigate the dealer's room and also to know kind of the hierarchy is the wrong word, but kind of like in terms of like grouping the different, like, okay, now I'm looking at only art things and now I'm looking at only book things, instead of like kind of like where it was now, it was very like kind of artists were kind of smattered in between the craftspeople and the booksellers and stuff, which makes it very kind of hard to navigate. Like, okay, I want to tell my friend that they should go and check this artist out, except now I need to figure out where in the layout they were, instead of just pointing in the map they were in this general area where all of the artists are.
I had a hard time remembering just where things were in general in the dealer's room.
Yeah.
It was a really good dealer's room, but it was all jumbled.
The art show was in the middle of it, which was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Art show, by the way, this year was really good.
I saw most of the art show, but not all of it, because I think you guys went back when I was in the business meeting.
Yeah.
We did. Did you see the puppets though?
The which ones? The two-headed teddy bears, which I wanted.
The ones that were like Sesame Street style.
Oh, I saw those as well, but the one puppet or the plushie that caught my attention the most was the two-headed teddy bear that looked like an arachnid and had like 6 legs. And I was telling Maya I want that, and Maya was like, "No, you're not allowed. Your suitcase won't like fit it."
I am legitimately shocked that Rachel did not walk away with one of those puppets. She got to try one on, and like the look on her face, I was like, Rachel's walking away with a puppet today. She's walking away with a puppet.
It was really cute, but I'm not sure that I would ever have used it again.
I mean, are puppets meant to be used? They're meant to be appreciated. Whatever that appreciation means. Sometimes it means you stick your hand up their butt.
If I had any like small kids in my life, I probably would have gotten it to entertain them, but yeah.
See, my nephew has a dragon hand puppet, and I affectionately nicknamed it Smaug. And when he was little, I would take the dragon hand puppet and I would chase him around with the hand puppet and trying to attack him, and he would run away screaming and laughing. And then when I caught him, I would like ruffle his hair with the dragon and kind of like pretend to eat him, and he would be like he went like fully like into like giggles and fits. And then I would be like, okay, and now the dragon goes to rest, and then he would be like, but I want to be chased by the dragon again.
We went to the run fair yesterday, and Owen came home with a sword and a shield with a dragon on it, and he's been slaying everyone who walks past for the past 24 hours now. Which, if you've never seen a 4-year-old fight you as a dragon with a sword, right? Because he is a dragon at the same time as he is the knight. Pretty choice.
That's like 3-year-old logic, yes.
So then what are you? Are you a human?
Yeah, but clearly, like, I'm the mom who told him that he couldn't play Mario Kart this morning, so I needed to be slayed.
You're not a dragon or a knight.
I'm not clear what anyone else is. I know that he is both, and that everyone else deserves to be slayed for various reasons. Some mysterious.
It's just toddler logic. Makes perfect sense to me. But yeah, all in all, this year was fun. I'm hoping Seattle takes cues from Glasgow with like how well organized in general Glasgow was. There were a couple of things, like some of the like choices regarding which programming items were in which rooms were a little questionable, given the popularity of the authors in set panels.
Though to be fair to Glasgow, I think that kind of happens at every convention, and they did not have overcrowding or queuing problems like there have been at previous World Cons. I mean, I still feel traumatized from the issues in Dublin. And that did not happen.
I mean, like, if you have not been to the original QCon, which was Helsinki 2017, you don't know what queues are. Dublin actually managed to. Helsinki was so much worse than Dublin.
I don't remember people telling stories about being yelled at by the convention center staff when going upstairs and stuff like that. That was my problem with Dublin, is it got chaotic, and they didn't have people like people from the con dedicated to wrangling the crowds and stuff. And one thing that I really liked in Glasgow is that a lot of the rooms had attendants who made sure that everybody had a seat, and then stop people from coming in, actually close down the room and stuff.
Yes.
It like, even if you had the disappointment of not being able to get into a room,
you clearly knew why.
It was organized, and you knew why. Yeah.
I also
Ursula
think
Ursula Vernon's mushroom panel in a room for like 45 was not a great choice.
Yeah.
I also think I don't know if every convention, every Worldcon does this. Certainly, some of them have in the past, but I feel like I've been to at least one that didn't do this, where the main time slots for the big panels were staggered by half an hour.
Yes.
So there was half an hour between them to get
That
from one
was
place
good.
to the other was good. So like you didn't have to worry about like missing a panel because you wanted to be lining up for a different one that was after.
Mm-hmm.
The readings, if you were going to like readings or table talks or things that were only half-hour slots, were not done like that. They were on their own.
They didn't have breaks in between, and they didn't have room attendants, so it was kind of on whoever was doing their reading had to do the reading and keep track of time and pass it off to the next person. So like when we went to see Ellen Kushner, and I think it was Charlie Jane Anders was in the room beforehand, and Ellen Kushner was just like,
"Time's up.
It's my turn in this room now." Very politely, like I think they know each other, but
yeah. Time's up.
Can we talk about the Ellen Kushner reading?
Yeah, I felt like Ellen Kushner was like full on New Yorker in that moment, like that vibe, like
because she read from a new thing.
But
that
she
is-
has been reading about that thing. She read from it in a different scene in Dublin as well
Yeah.
in 2019.
Oh, I
But
didn't
now,
know in Dublin.
now it's nearing
Yeah.
completion. Now it's like
Now
Now
it's
it's a
nearing.
book that is looking for a publisher.
Yeah,
And
and it's turned from one book to two books. Originally, when she was reading from it last in 2019, so this book has been in the works for a while. It was only supposed to be one book, and now it's
but,
two books,
but she
which
made
is
it seem like book one is done now.
Mhm.
yeah. Book one is done, and she's already writing the second book because
Second book.
they are following each other immediately. Like basically, the story could not be contained in one book, so it had to be split. That was pretty much
Knock
it.
on wood, we get this soon.
And she's trying to shop the book to publishers and hopefully get the rest of the Riverside books published in new editions as well that would match the new books.
Are they currently in print from a US publisher?
Yes, with boring editions.
Yes, they are very boring, kind of
Which
not
publisher is
not
this?
mass paperbacks, but like boring trade
They're
paperbacks.
trade paperbacks
Yeah.
with just like I feel like there's like just a sword on the cover or something.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Okay.
Those.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, let me look because I'm on Goodreads looking for these editions.
I had them all in like the mass market paperbacks. I would kill for a good like Riverside like broken binding like limited edition
Yeah.
like box set. That I
I-
would buy. I would not even question it. I would be like, yes, please, thank you, sir. Give it.
Some years ago, Small Beer Press did a special hardcover edition of Privilege of the Sword, and I have that one, and I've always been like, why didn't you do the other two and make them all match?
Because that's something Jesus would do.
So it's not a U.S. publisher; it's Glance, but you can buy them in the U.S.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Sorry, I'm suddenly focusing on trying to get this.
I agree. Non-matching texts are nightmares.
Yes.
That's like
Mine
my villain origin story is the Serpent Sea being the hardcover being a larger size than every other book in that series.
In the Serpent's Wake.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you. Sorry. Yeah, in the Serpent's Wake, like I see it. Like I tracked down copies of the good covers for both Seraphina and Shadow Scale. So like they're there. I have Tess the Row. They're all the same size. And then in the Serpent's Wake, and I'm just like,
I mean, I had to go all the way to Scotland to buy the last book in the Golden Fool, like the Realm of the Elderlings books, because the only ones in Finland, like all of the others are sold in the like trade paperbacks, and then the last one is this tiny measly mass market paperback that is like 10 centimeters like lower than the rest. And I was just like, isn't there any Finnish retailer who is selling the trade for the last one? And no, there weren't. So when I saw it in a bookstore, I was like, okay, I need to buy this now before like.
I watched Kelsey's TikTok about the Imperial Raj trilogy covers, by the way, and I mean, yes, they're incredibly difficult to tell apart.
okay. So I am on the record of hating the new Imperial Raj covers.
Okay, I made a TikTok the other day about how Anne Leckie never gets good book covers. Like I went through all of them; they're all bad for different reasons.
I actually don't
but the thing
mind
that-
the
no,
original.
The original trilogy ones that it's all one big painting that's been split up into the
They're
three. like,
especially bad. Yes.
I actually like those.
I like them.
like
No, the thing that
those.
makes me so like about the new covers is Ancillary Mercy That is a menstrual pad.
Yes,
I
and
cannot unsee that
once
now.
you pointed that out,
Thanks
I
for
can't
that.
unsee it. And I also said that in the TikToks. So now everyone who saw my TikTok video won't be able to unsee it.
Like
You're welcome.
With the new covers, I mean, if you hadn't pointed out the menstrual pad thing to me, I probably wouldn't like whatever. I actually like things that are very like simple and geometric, but even I'm like,
Aesthetically-
those are just boring.
Aesthetically,
me
I
to-
like them as like pieces of design. They have absolutely no connection to the content of the books whatsoever. You can't even tell that the books are sci-fi anymore.
Yes.
I mean, similarly, I have ruined Disney's Tarzan for many people by pointing out things that should not be pointed out.
We're gonna go
Can't
there.
just leave it like that.
Imagine he's wearing a diaper when he is found, and then
Yeah.
later he's wearing a loincloth. Who teaches him the concept of clothing? Unless he just wears the diaper.
Can I tell you my true win of Worldcon? Is that Rachel went home and watched The Mummy for the first time
Yes!
and you're welcome.
Yes!
Okay, so let's talk about the Mummy, but first let's quickly talk Hugo's. Yeah.
Can we talk about the big elephant in the room? About the like just a tiny bit about the controversy surrounding a certain undistinguished gentleman who may or may not have flown
To Scotland.
to Scotland,
Yes. Yes.
and who
let's
may
talk
or may
about it.
not have gotten chewed up by
Oh, I don't
certain
even
someone.
think we're saying may or may not anymore. It happened.
Dave McCarthy went
happened.
to Scotland. He wanted to get into the con and no one let him. He had a party outside the con like a big old whiny baby, and Ursula Vernon saw him in a hotel and chewed his ass out. She told him she hopes he steps on Legos for the rest of his life.
Nice.
I
Oh,
gave
yeah, I
him
kept-
to buy her a drink.
Yeah, people were buying her drinks at the hotel.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Dave McCarthy.
All right.
Yeah, it's
Hugo winners before we run out of time.
yeah. So I was pleasantly I was hoping for Saint of Bright Doors, and I was actually like a little shocked at how low it was.
Yeah, me
It's-
too.
Yeah, same. Well, so
I mean, I was shocked that it made the shortlist
yeah.
in the first place, and then having made the shortlist, I thought that after everyone read it, it would rank higher.
Especially after it won the Nebula.
You're right. I think Some Desperate Glory was a surprise win for a lot of people.
You could tell like in the audience that people were surprised.
and
People were like, huh?
interesting.
It was like the cat meme. Huh?
But like, it's not one that I'm mad about. I think a lot of people were happy about it, just surprised. I was surprised to see that it also had the most nominations. So it was the front runner from the start, and I think no one really knew that.
I was
Yeah.
very surprised by that. Yeah. I feel some disappointment because there were like 3 other books on the short list that I would have been perfectly happy if they had won. I would have been, thrilled with any of them. And then there was Some Desperate Glory, which is the one that I DNF'd because it wasn't going to work for me. And then it won. And now I'm like, what am I going to do? That being said, I think her acceptance speech was excellent.
Yes.
And I think in many ways, like she kind of addressed not exactly like kind of the controversy why people are very hot and cold about that book, but just the way that she handled it and her expectations or her hopes for that book in the future and stuff. I really liked her speech, and
I thought it was a really good
speech.
yeah, it surprised me in such an excellent way with what she had to say about it.
Yeah.
I also, in terms of books that won, like I'm not shocked that Thornhedge won novella, but I am a little disappointed because I felt it was it was mid for me, and it was
Yes.
carried by
Thornhedge was very
author
mid.
recognition.
Yeah, it was very
That's
mid, and Mammoths at the Gates, was that the one on the short list?
Yeah,
And-
Mammoths at the Gates, mimicking of known successes.
Yeah.
Those were kind of my pick. Like,
Same.
okay, I was kind of mid on like lukewarm on mimicking of known successes, but that was at least doing interesting
It was
things.
doing very interesting things.
And
yeah.
I would
You
have
can
been
just-
happy if that one won, even though Mammoths at the Gates was like my number one pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just like, do I enjoy hearing Ursula Vernon or T. Kingfisher give a speech about a random topic? Of course, we could like she could be just
That's why the
given-
room
given
for the
2
fungi
hour-
panel filled up so quickly.
Yeah. Like you could just have her do a monologues by T. Kingfisher, a panel, and put it in hall whatever or an auditorium, and it would fill up, and people would just listen to her
Yeah.
monologuing about
What I
interesting
will
things.
what I will say is that I'm a little bit worried that there's going to be a trend has already started, beginning in like Chengdu, that people vote for Ursula Vernon stories not because they're the most excellent thing on the shortlist in their opinion, but because they want to hear the acceptance speech. And I want to hear the acceptance speech too, but if you want to get your Ursula Vernon fix, she's very much online, and you can
Yeah,
go
she's
go
almost
read her
chronically
Blue
online.
Sky
one would say.
and Twitter threads. You're gonna get even more of that goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So that was a little
Remember
disappointing.
when she live tweeted Swiss Family Robinson?
Yes.
Nostalgia hits.
Yes.
But I'm
Those
just
were the
saying
days.
that I am not really a fan of this trend. And I'm worried.
I don't know if it was because of the acceptance speech this year or if it was because of a reaction from last year where she got that best novel win, and then the joy of that was taken away by the revelations of Shenanigans. And
I'm also kind of not a fan of let's give people Hugo Awards retrospectively. Like maybe let's focus on the here and now. I know
like
people want
example,
to, you know,
Astounding Award. I'm very happy for Shiran J. Zhao for winning. However, none of the other authors will get a second chance. And some of them were on their second year of eligibility, and they won't get an additional extra year. And this was their chance. And that is kind of a bittersweet thing for me, because like in my opinion is that I am happy that she won. I'm happy that they won, but at the same time, it's bittersweet in that moment, because like yes, there was a good, like I'm not mad that their eligibility was extended, but at the same time it's kind of like, well, but none of the other authors who were in their second year of eligibility this year will get their eligibility extended. There's not gonna be another special circumstance.
I mean,
it was a really good lineup this year for the Astounding Award too.
Yeah.
one of those things where like when something just bad and crappy like that happens, there really is no way to remedy it that's fair to everyone, and it just sucks. Like it doesn't stop sucking.
Yeah.
Even after you try to,
And they even acknowledged it in their speech, where they're like, thanks for voting me because you pitied me, that kind of thing, like in tongue in cheek. But it's like, I'm not saying that that's why people voted for them. But
the fact that they did have like an extra year to read their books, like that's a benefit in the Astounding Award, right?
Yes.
That's, just a natural boost of potential readership.
And also because like not only did they have an extra year to read their work, but they also were more aware of who this person is, so they were more aware of what work to even look for.
Mm.
Because my problem with Astounding award thing is that sometimes when I see the list of authors, I'm like, okay, but where can I access your work?
Unless they're known for like a debut novel in that
Yes.
year, it can be hard because a lot of them break through in short fiction first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say 2 categories that I am thrilled about, like I'm very happy with, is Naomi Kritzer's back-to-back winning for short story and novelette. Her stories were my top picks in both of those categories, so I'm not mad she won. For Better Living Through Algorithms and The Year Without Sunshine, I just in general always enjoy her stories. I enjoy her brand of very, very near future sci-fi and hopeful, optimistic people helping each other, communities trying to get through tough times and stuff. And I needed stories about something kind of hopeful to win this year, so I was very happy about that. And if you haven't read anything by her, Better Living Through Algorithms is like a really, really great one to pick up.
God damn it. Sorry.
Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about the Lodestar because
Have to.
an adult book won again. And it's incredibly frustrating because this has happened before. It's a persistent problem. And when you look at the short list, the book that was, or the long list, the first book that passed the cutoff was Camp Damascus, which has already been embroiled in a nominated for a YA award, not exactly YA, except for that one. Chuck Tingle spoke up and was like, hey, this is an adult book. It's not YA. Can you please take it off the YA list so a YA author can...
Remind me which one actually won.
What?
Remind me which one won.
Morning Kill Black Goose.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Which I will say I haven't read. I've heard it's great. I've heard there are people who like say, okay, I could see how this would appeal to YA, which is why it was it was on the Alex Award long list. So for folks who don't know, every year the Young Adult Library Services group at ALA, so all young adult librarians, do an award called the Alex Award, which is specifically for adult books that have crossover appeal to teenagers. It took them a while to get the 2024 full list up, but To Shape a Dragon's Breath was on the long list for that. Like, it didn't win an Alex Award, but it was nominated for an Alex Award. And this is the same award that Naomi Novik has been nominated for the Scholomance books.
I think in the Hugo nomination community, there is just a lack of awareness that YA is a publishing and marketing distinction, not like how you feel about it and like whether it reminds you of the Hunger Games.
Yeah. And I think also that I think therein lies the problem in this whole category to begin with, is that I think it is absurd to make the average age of the Hugo voting populace is relatively, like, we are young in the average Hugo voting populace.
Is a problem if the community isn't bringing in young people.
Yeah.
I was say we're young, we're 30 somethings. We also some of us have gray hair already, so we're not that.
No, but I'm just like bringing the attention that is a problem when we are the youngins.
Yeah, it's like that's bad.
I think another problem with how they're doing it is Hugo's, like, I would say it's a little debatable now, but like it has a certain cachet among, like, librarians will check the Hugo Awards to buy books. They're like, okay, this book was nominated for a Hugo. This book won a Hugo. There's probably going to be interest in that. I see on YA, like, library Twitter, there's not that for the Lodestars because it's just so disconnected from what teens are actually reading or from what's actually being published. Like, I do think that there should be something like what the Ignite Awards are doing,
yes,
where they have input from those specific age groups when they're constructing their shortlists.
One of the things that I'm actually interested in is because you have the kid in tow and the kind of like would it help if there was some kind of like youth membership or something, or like a pre-jury, same as the Ignite Awards, because we do have the kid in tow and the kind of youth Worldcon members. So
Those come with nominating and voting rights, though.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Well, sure. I would be worried about that for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the kid in tow is only under like 9, which is not necessarily your target demographic.
Yeah.
And those kids, like, those kids read a lot, right? Which is amazing. They are also the kind of kids who are not all the time, but sometimes, right, being given like the SFF classics instead of new works because their parents are there over their shoulders as longtime Hugo like lovers who are telling them and whispering in their ear like maybe this isn't as good as this, right? Like they are still also having that exposure change. Not that they wouldn't have a much better finger on the pulse. What I'd love to see is like a series of panels that we have with just youth, right? Like run by people under 21. And those panels talk about like the books that they're loving and what they're reading and kind of starting to feature those voices to the general population more, because I think that that's actually where the disconnect lies, right? Like if you're 75 and your grandkid visits you once a year, right? You're not sitting at home reading the books that they're going to read. And those are the people ultimately who nominate in the category is people who fit that kind of mold rather than there are very few 16-year-olds who can afford $145 to vote in the Hugo Awards. We need to be lowering the cost for that.
Yes.
And we need to be bringing their voices up.
I mean, that's another thing. I do think also that the cost of Worldcon, like,
can we just do severely discounted voting memberships for teens?
That also like can we also like, I understand like if you are an attending member that there are different things to take into consideration. I understand an attending membership can be more expensive, but if you are a non-attending member, like I'm sorry, like I understand the fan funds and these that are meant to make it more accessible for fans to, for example, travel for Worldcon and get them like memberships and stuff, and also that I understand the fear of like, okay, are we diluting the membership if we make it more accessible? That said,
I want to see at Worldcon, if you show up and you have a public library card and you're under the age of 18, you get in free.
That would be great.
That would be great. God damn it.
I mean, I'm assuming that the cost of memberships keeps going up because it's about the cost of the convention, like running the convention is more expensive. That's what drives the cost of that.
Yes. And also different cities are going to be more expensive than others to host the convention.
I think that yes, the price is part of it, but also just, you know, even younger generations of fans, even in their 20s, you know, don't even know that the Hugo Awards are a fan award, right? Don't know that that's how you vote in the Hugo Awards. People know the name of the Hugo Awards, but there is a sort of generational disconnect where we haven't gotten younger fans involved.
And we won't, because it keeps being sorry to say, like a gentleman's club in a way, in terms of like, but in this case the gap is not necessarily a gender gap, but a class, and unfortunately in some cases it's a class and racial gap.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's 100%.
I mean, every Worldcon I've gone to, maybe with the exception of Glasgow, has had at least one panel that's basically about the problem with the graying of fandom, and it's like if they haven't solved the problem on like after all this time, we're not going to solve the problem just by trying to fix the lodestar.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like
Yeah, I think there are probably easier ways to like reform the lodestar that won't address the underlying structural
Mhm.
problems with.
But if part of the problem is you can only nominate and vote for the lodestar if you are a member of Worldcon, then it really is going to be tied to the much bigger issue everyone's been talking about for years about how Worldcon fandom, the people who go to Worldcon, the people who care about Worldcon are how do I say this delicately? Getting very old and they're not being replaced by younger people. Not at the rate that you would need that turnover to happen. So
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we need to start thinking about sending a proposal over to the Seattle folks. Hey, give your local kids free access.
I think like a quick fix for a quick fix that wouldn't fix some of the underlying issues would just be like, Hugo's for best novel, the requirement is over 40,000 words. But for novella, there's a word count requirement. I think having it is explicitly for young adults. It is either published by a YA publisher or in the metadata that the publishers get, because that way it would include self-published, like it includes young adult. And I know there's other discussion about middle grade getting included in the lodestar because middle grade is also its own category.
Like I am personally in favor of including middle grade in the lodestar, but I think whatever reform has to happen, it needs to be explicitly stated whether or not middle grade is meant to be included.
Agreed. Because like that's another sticking point is
I mean, at the very least, middle grade feels more in line with the spirit, right?
Absolutely.
And like maybe that would lead to like a change in the like a slight change in the title, but like yeah, I think there needs to be some explicit boundaries put on it because Hugo voters and nominators cannot be trusted with how vague it is at this point in time. Like I get the purpose of why they wanted to have it be a little bit more permissive, but it's clearly not working.
I think part of the problem with trying to lock it down, though, is that there is that deep culture with Hugo Awards of the voters know we don't want to lock them into a lot of criteria.
I mean, clearly the voters don't know shit.
Well,
I mean, I think it's fair
right
to
now.
do a comparison with like word count because word count is something that a reader who is nominating won't necessarily be able to know or access unless you get confirmation.
Like a good example is P. Jelly Clark's new book, Dead Cattail Assassins. Like at a glance, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is a novella. It's short. It's published by Tor.com. The price point is in line with their novellas. But I went to an author talk with him, and he mentioned like it's 50,000 words. It's a novel.
And that, that's something where something that is actual real publication information about a book is allowed to set the boundaries.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. There are other categories that people are very happy about or want to talk about.
Okay, so I am happy Baldur's Gate won Best Game.
Yeah, there we go.
Sad that Jedi Survivor was last because I loved that game and that was my number one pick because like I knew Baldur's Gate was going to win, so I was just like, we're going with Jedi Survivor.
I am so happy that even though Larian Studios have said and stated that they're starting to be a little bit unhappy about all the awards because it means that all of their projects keep getting pushed back because they need to send people to pick up these awards. That said, they showed up like they brought like 10 members at least of their writing team to accept the award
I
on
was
writing.
shocked that they actually had I didn't even expect them to have somebody just show up and accept
is-
an award, and they have an
When is the
entire group.
last
Like,
time? Yeah, when's the last time an actual like broader media outlet,
Yeah.
like publishers?
I think for the
mean,
Hades,
you
they
could
sent in
argue-
a video.
You could argue that Larian is not a AAA studio in that sense. I mean, they're gonna be big now, but they're essentially like still like they're a Swedish-based studio, and they're still sort of like treading the line of like being like on the cusp of like indie to AAA in terms of like influence. That said, the fact that their CEO showed up and that they
he's a really tall guy.
yeah
Okay,
Lane.
he was so tall.
like in the Game Awards, he came up in he was dressed in full plate armor to accept the Game of the Year award. So he was dressed down for the event this time. but like my favorite thing is that like in the concert that Maya went to see, they had special permission from Larian Studios to like for the Philharmonic Orchestra to play Baldur's Gate like songs from the soundtrack as well. So so they played it in the concert. And that's when I was like, okay, because like Maya told me afterwards that yeah, the CEO of Larian Studios was there, and I was like, okay, Baldur's Gate is gonna win. It's like it's a done deal now. They are. The CEO of Larian is like in attendance at Worldcon. I'm pretty sure that they're gonna win.
Yeah, like again, that one it wasn't shocking. Just for me personally, I was sad about how low Jedi Survivor, like that it was the last one. But it's fine. It's fine.
I had no feelings whatsoever about Alan Wake being a number 4.
I think the other, let's see. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Oh, I will say I was a little sad that Subspace Rhapsody didn't win short form dramatic presentation.
One of the Last of Us episodes won. Yeah,
It was the only one that was nominated. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
mean,
not.
I
I'm not
mean-
surprised that one.
I think it won for a good reason. However, I'm more sad about like the. I mean, not sad. I'm just surprised that Dungeons and Dragons won long form best dramatic presentation, and I love Dungeons and Dragons. I was just so sure that either Nimona or
I didn't think
Spider-Man was
Nimona
gonna
was
win.
going to win. I
I'm
was.
salty about this. Nimona should have won.
I didn't think Nimona was going to win, honestly, just based on Hugo voter demographics. But I was hoping that Across the Spider-Verse would win.
Me too. I think Across the Spider-Verse was my first choice.
That was also my first choice, but I also understand that because it's like a sequel, it's a middle, kind of like leaves in a cliffhanger. God damn it. So I understand that there's some barriers to people enjoying it that they may not have in a more standalone thing. And also Dungeons and Dragons is like enjoying like D&D in general is enjoying kind of a renaissance,
Mhm.
if you will, since COVID, like since the 2020 lockdowns, tabletop role playing has become huger than ever. More people, like even people that like used to make fun of me for enjoying tabletop role playing games are now doing tabletop role playing games.
I tried to watch the D&D movie. I got about 10 minutes in and got bored and forgot I was watching it. Oops. Sorry.
That's okay, Kelsey. Never change.
All right, so we are at time. Do we want to just tell folks where they can find us?
You can find me at Stitch and Bitch every month in various channels. That
Ditto.
is currently the most I can promise.
Rachel?
Ditto.
Bree?
You can obviously find me here on various channels. I'm a little bit more sporadic in my attendance. I'm also over on Blue Sky, and I spend a good chunk of time on Instagram as Bree Reads Books. In theory, I have a YouTube channel here. It is not posted on very frequently, but you could follow me there anyway. And maybe one day I'll surprise you like a little fairy present in your YouTube feed.
Kelsey?
Looking forward to the fairy present. I am the Fancy Hat Lady Reads here on YouTube. I have a video that I filmed last night talking about the novella category, doing my wrap up for those books. So maybe I'll get that posted tonight or tomorrow. Who knows? New video. And I am also at the Fancy Hat Lady Reads on TikTok occasionally. And Sunshine is at the Fancy Cat Lady Reads on Instagram.
Yeah, you should follow Sunshine.
You should follow Sunshine.
Yeah.
She has good opinions.
And you can find me at Bookish Die on Twitter, YouTube, and Blue Sky, although I am still mostly on Twitter because that's where all my sports stuff is. And Paralympics are starting this week, so I will be back on my bullshit.
And look, I am all, like this much done.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for those who joined us. And I hope folks watching the replay enjoyed it as well. And we will catch you next month. I believe we're on Rachel's channel next month.
I believe so,
Okay.
because our rotation starts again. So it's Rachel, then me, then Kelsey,
Yeah.
then Di. Yeah. So yeah, it's Rachel. Rachel is next.
All right.
I will trust you guys to remember.
I double checked our sheet, and yeah, you're up next.
Okay.
Yes. So we will let you know. Wait a second. Oh yeah, I'm doing this right. We will let you know when we have decided on the date.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.